Maybe
Automator. Oh, that's
Auxiliary
funny.
Power activated. Press start to continue.
Oh, yeah, it's him.
The big triangle.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, wow.
I'm here from the future. I know you don't believe me. I'm Deltron. This is Automator. We had to retreat somewhere
Automator, wow.
remote where we could be
That is
alone.
so cool
Continuous
that they
studies of the
literally are
ancient
referencing this
flows.
album in this
Didn't
kid's
expect
cartoon.
to see others in this zone.
Hello, and thank you for checking out the video. I just want to let you know that I not only create content on my YouTube channel, Class in the Glass, but I'm also on Twitch, where I review movies, cartoons, and TV shows live, while also playing single-player games and multiplayer games. I also have a Patreon where subscribers have access to hundreds of video and audio commentaries for films and cartoons, as well as podcasts and videocasts. In the meantime, thank you again for watching. Enjoy the video.
We can go ahead and finally get into this week's musical musings, the official episode 1. And for those that don't know, I am going to review and discuss and just have a nice conversation with you guys about Deltron, good old Deltron 3030, which people don't know. Deltron 3030, it is the debut hip-hop album of the group of the same name, and it features the rapper Del, the Funky Homosapien, who sings and raps most of the lyrics in this album. It also features producer Dan the Automator and DJ Kid Koala. The album was released over 20 years ago. I want to say back in 2000, like May of 2000, chat. So it's 23 years old. And for those who are interested, like just like the album's cover, I was like, what is that? Because I was like, that's kind of cool, like a kind of like retro futuristic. Well, apparently it's a photograph of a building, a perisphere, I think that's what it's called, a perisphere, correct me if I'm wrong, and it was a structure that was constructed in the late 1930s for New York's World Fair, where they would have all sorts of different technologies and things from across the world, like that kind of thing. And so it's like, oh, so it's definitely like retro, and they just kind of made it a little more futuristic looking, like on the album cover itself. So I thought that was pretty fun. So already kind of like stands out. And I also like the yellow too with it. I think that looks pretty cool as well, and just like the people and the shadows and all that. So it's a really good. It's not an overly complicated cover at all, but it's like, oh, he kind of gets across that this is definitely kind of like a retro-futuristic, like sci-fi world. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Interesting piece of artwork. I think that's pretty fun. And for those that don't know, just the content of the album itself, the album setting is in this like dystopian sci-fi world set in the year 3030, and has Del in the role of Deltron Zero, who is this kind of frustrated and disillusioned soldier and also computer genius and hacker who decides to fuse with a mech suit that he has used in battle and starts a rebellion against the evil corporate overlords that control everything in the 31st century. And, the evil corporate overlords, this bureaucratic structure, they despise everything from, like, individual rights to creativity, and most definitely, more than anything else, most of all, hip-hop, chat, the hippity-hop. The album itself is a little over 60 minutes, so it's good length in my opinion. And it features songs that blend not only like, poignant messages and social commentary, but also it blends it with like, a sci-fi fantasy adventures and battles as like Del continues to gain allies in his rebellion against this new world order. And a little fun fact for you guys, because I was looking up like, the artist. I was thinking like, okay, who's this Del? Because I was not familiar with him. And apparently, Chad, he is the cousin of another notable hip-hop artist and rapper, O'Shea Jackson, probably better known as Ice Cube, the West Coast rapper. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I had no idea about that. I thought that was awesome. So it's like, all right, see, and I'm already learning, chat. Like, after listening to this, that's what's so fun about this new show is it's not only going to be just me listening to this, but it's like, I'm going to actually do my research and, like, figure out, like, okay, who are these guys and what are they related to? What was their inspiration? And so it's like, oh, it's kind of cool that, you know, the lyricist, you know, the one who sings all these songs, raps all these songs is also, you know, he has other family members who are in the industry. And so it's cool to learn that, you know, that Ice Cube is also his cousin. It just kind of shows that, hey, they're both in the same field, right? Or, you know, Ice Cube certainly was during the time of, you know, NWA and then going off on his own, of course. But it's interesting how you can have two family members in the same field, but in terms of how they like, you know, perform is just radically different from one another. And it's cool that kind of sets them apart from each other. I like something like that. Oh, wait a minute. I got to show this to people. Oh, this is funny.
Look. Maybe
Automator. Oh, that's
Auxiliary
funny.
Power activated. Press start to continue.
Oh, yeah, it's him.
The big triangle.
Thanks.
Oh, wow.
I'm here from the future. I know you don't believe me. I'm Deltron. This is Automator. We had to retreat somewhere
Automator,
remote
wow.
where we could be
That is
alone.
so
Continue
cool
our
that they
studies of the
literally are
ancient
referencing
funk
this
flows.
album in this
Didn't
kids
expect
cartoon.
to see others in the zone.
they got the
My
actual guy to
calculator
do
is
the
off.
voice.
I thought I was alone. Keep this creek a secret. You
that's
understand?
funny.
There could be soldiers from the future tracing where I am.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
My
it's pretty much,
mission,
yeah, Chaz.
uncover more
This is pretty much the
analog
album.
sounds. Music is my muscles.
This
Without
is
no
it, by the way.
This
This is what I see in my head when I listen to this.
To do that, I feel that maybe this might be the place to replenish my supply before it totally evaporates.
Oh, mic fucking drop. They're like, my God. I did want to kind of provide a little context, brief context, just of my background with, you know, music and rap. You know, as you guys know, I'm, you know, in terms of, you know, certain mediums, I'm definitely ignorant when it comes to music. Not that I don't appreciate music, not that I don't like music, but I don't know as much about it as many other people do. It just wasn't one of those things that I was overly exposed to as a kid or, you know, sought out for myself. I was more about, you know, film and books and TV shows and comics and video games. That was more my wheelhouse, right? And so I had very little experience with music and certainly very little experience with hip hop and rap outside of it, you know, being featured in, you know, film and TV soundtracks or covered more specifically. Like it's kind of like the one of the main parts of a film, like, you know, Straight Outta Compton. You know, for me, I have to say, just after listening to this, I think this is just a really nice introduction to hip hop. And it acts as a gateway for me since it incorporates a lot of elements from the sci-fi and fantasy genres. And there also has like a lot of psychedelic tones that I like to hear in my movies and TV shows that deal with sci-fi and fantasy elements. I think that's really cool. Like, you know, of course they certainly sample a lot in this album, and I was like, oh, I recognize some of these sound effects. I recognized the movies and TV shows and characters from fiction that they're like talking about, or you know, or they're kind of having like some innuendo towards them. I was like, oh, okay, and so that made it a little more you know, easier for me to understand, because I was like, oh, I see what you're referencing here and what your songs are all about. I was like, I thought that was pretty awesome. And, you know, the first song of this album, there's about like 12 main songs in this album. They do have like these little in-betweens, so I want to get to these little kind of sketches that introduces like each song, right? Kind of sets up what the next song is after like the one before it.
I hijack a mech, control it with my magical chance. So battle advanced through centuries of hip-hop legacy. Mega speed, hyper warp the automator.
It starts out with 3030, you know, which is, of course, the name of the album, and it's the name of this first song. I have to say, you know, it starts strong, because this is probably my favorite song of the album. Which is like, not bad. Good first impression, because I was really into it. And I think this song, it kind of just helps establish the world of the album that it's trying to create. You know, it's one with, you know, mech suits and magic and space travel, all of which kind of tie into, you know, Del's story, you know, Del the soldier. And, you know, and Del even introduces himself in the song, in his first verse, saying he's, you know, the hero Deltron Zero, who's, you know, risen to fight against this unjust system. You know, I think this song has just great atmospheric background music. They incorporate stuff that's operatic, that's like it's from gospel, like gospel music, chat. Like from like I've been to several Baptist church where it's been mostly an all-black congregation. And I was like, oh, the music they're using here that I heard like in those congregations, like they're using it here and sampling it there. It's like part of the background. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And they also do, it's clearly like, what their other influences are. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a big anime influence, because he even references in the song itself, he compares himself like, to the Major from Ghost in the Shell, because, she is an android basically. She's more machine than woman. And I thought that was cool. Just a lot of things that remind me of Cowboy Bebop. Has some great sound effects in the first song. Everything from like, StarCraft, blasting each other and traveling around the universe. You have laser sound effects. You have sounds of like sci-fi battles, and just other like references to other like sci-fi stories. I think it's an absolute banger. It's a great way to introduce you to the album, and I think it's a great way to introduce you to hip hop. Again, I definitely do not have as much experience in hip hop as most people do. Certainly, people that enjoy and listen to on a regular basis. But for someone like me, I absolutely loved it. I loved how they incorporate gospel music into this. I love that they had like almost like an operatic score in the background too, and of course all the sci-fi sounds as well. And it's cool that he's telling not only in this song, it's kind of like the prologue to like establishing like what this world is, but it continues on. He tells a story throughout the rest of the album. But yeah, this song to me is like, wow, that was a hell of an introduction. How are you going to be able to top that? And he does, and there's a number of other great songs in theirs, but the first song, 3030, or in the year 3030, I think is great and definitely kind of the highlight for me, in my opinion.
Things you can do, some can't be done. Things you can do, some can't be done. Things you can do, some can't be done. Things you can.
And then we get to like the next song, which is called "The Things You Can Do," and this song is more like talking about, based on the lyrics, like just how this government is attempting to just this futuristic government, this dictatorship, is trying to just kind of silence everyone. And I almost interpreted it as like, oh, is Del like almost like saying like this is how a lot of minorities, certainly around the world, but most specifically the United States, have been silenced, by the corporate overlords, by the government powers that be. It just kind of it reminded me of that. And he talks a lot about conformity in this particular song. I mean, conformity is definitely a part of a lot of the songs in this, but this is the first one where he really mentions conformity, and how like his character is rejecting conformity, and he wants to rebel against the system. And he also does some like fun references to like some 80s cartoons here. Like he says he's like the fictional character Optimus Prime at one point because of his body, and how he's going up against the Decepticons, who are the corporate overlords of this world. And so I actually thought that song was pretty good. It's pretty good. I liked it, not as much as the first one, but I liked what he was talking about, like what he was referencing, and I liked obviously the cool references to Optimus Prime and how it he rhymes it in the song. I thought was pretty cool, and how he talks about Autobots and Decepticons. I think that was fun. Then we get to the next song, which is Positive Contact. And this one is how, like, okay, he's finally making like headway, in this world, and now he's starting to become like this, well-loved legend, and he's having like, positive contact among all these different people, and more people are joining him over time. He talks about how they won their first big victory, which was on the planet Mercury, and they've kind of taken control of that, right? And how he used his battle suit, he used his mech suit to take over the planet along with all of his allies. And so I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
But then we get to Virus, and I like this one because it opens up with this kind of like chorus, and where he's pretty much like outlining his plan to create like a virus to overthrow the system and like turn it into complete chaos. You have this old man that comes in, and he's always kind of like yelling at Del throughout the song. He's always answering back at him. And, of course, that old man that's like, ah! He's pretty much, you goddamn hippity-ups! He's basically, the corporate, or he's the representative of the corporate overlords. And, he's doing like an assault on Del and his followers in the song. But Del and his followers overwhelm him through the power of love and through hippity hop, which I thought was pretty funny. I really like that.
Here at Braemar College, we can get you prepared for the 31st century with advanced programming in quad rendering and Java++ scripting language.
Then we have the song Upgrade. That's the 5th song in the album. And it's funny because it starts initially as like a bit of propaganda, where it's like this person like on a loudspeaker or something, and it's very 1984 in terms of tone, but they're constantly saying how you need to upgrade your gray matter because one day it may matter. And it's I think it's like they reference like it's in an academic environment. And it's talking about how they have a desire for all these students, in this university to become smarter, but that will inevitably lead them to like working these like really shitty dead end jobs. But then Del, he's urging, so he takes the message that they're propagating, the upgrade your gray matter because one day it may matter, and instead of going to work in like this 9 to 5 dead-end job for the rest of your life, he says, is like, let it enrich your own life instead. Use it to enrich your own life and what your passions are, and gain freedom. One of the first ways you can gain freedom, whether it's economic or cultural, is individual freedom, and pursue what you like. And like the AI voice that's kind of initially like sounding like, upgrade your gray matter, it's very much a Stephen Hawking AI voice, the way it's speaking. It's like I like that throughout this album, they're telling a single story with each song. I think that's actually like really, really cool. And then we get to this one. This one's pretty good. This one's pretty good. We get to number 6, which is called Mastermind. And this is basically Del talking about how he's the mastermind. And not that he's the mastermind, but the mastermind of his whole operation. And basically within the world itself, and also just the album itself, is Dan the Automator. And, he basically sings, Dan's praises. But what's actually really cool about this is like, this is the first time, at least in this album, where they use something that's very similar to like kind of classical music to me, like outside like the operatic stuff that we heard earlier in the gospel. But we hear this I think it's like a harpsichord. It reminded me of those kind of like classical French like music by like Amadeus or Salieri or something like that. Like I love that they incorporate like a harpsichord in the music here, and it's just something I didn't expect, and I thought that was pretty fun. I love that they have like a harpsichord. Who would have ever thought that would be like part of hip hop or rap? Look, it's blending things from centuries ago. It's like, oh, look at that, and it's getting kind of into the sci-fi field. So that was pretty awesome.
Yo, in the year 3013, everybody wants to.
Then we have Madness, which is probably my second favorite song behind, of course, 3030, behind 3030. And I almost kind of looked at it that like this kind of serves as the centerpiece of the entire album, because it goes into how Del has made like all this progress so far, because it's also at the halfway point of the album too, so it kind of makes sense. Like they've made all this progress so far, and they've won all these battles at this point, but they still haven't won the war. But this is also the one where he's definitely like starting to sample some of the previous songs too and incorporating them back into here. And basically what he's saying is, he's saying like, I've done all these things like here and here and here, but what he's also saying in the song, at least how I read it, is he's saying that rap and hip-hop and music, I think, can be used to influence people. That's always kind of playing in the background. That's the idea that keeps like popping up. And also just has like an excellent use of background music as well. So I would probably say that's probably my second favorite song of the album.
Yeah. That's the funky shit. Hey, bust it. Yo.
And then we get to like number 8, which is Time Keeps Slipping. And again, this is kind of where he's talking more about the the ongoing like war on the system and like other people who are affected by it, and how you even like have like this character where you hear like this pitiful cry in the background, and he kind of like represents, he's like the hook, it's like the hook of the song, this like pitiful cry, and it's like this kind of employee who is like this representative of this of the corporate system itself. And I thought that was pretty cool how they use that like in the song, but also talking about all the the progress that's been made, but how it's affecting just a lot of other people as well. And this is kind of cool. This is kind of like a cool, like interesting, like twist on a propaganda song. We got a song called Turbulence, where the government's like, all right, we're fucking pissed. We're done with all this bullshit. Deltron, and Deltron Zero and his mech army and all that bullshit. It's like, and this here, it's like, we're going to frame him. And so in this song, they pretty much frame him as he's not even human now, where they frame him as this alien invader. And I think they have like a skit before the song pops up. I think it's called like News, where they do this whole thing about, it's like, oh, Deltron and his evil followers have attacked us yet again, but we shall prevail and the system shall prevail, etc. But then Del inevitably strikes back, and he in this song he reveals the various like dark injustices of the government, and how he's kind of like connecting these like these injustices which are in the context of the world itself, but also within the real world, and how it's been kind of accepted as this everyday occurrence and over and over and over again, and we're not actually doing anything about it. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's kind of like how it's about his like overall just philosophy in general, and how so many of the things that we so often see like in war and death, it's like an everyday occurrence, like in the neighborhood which he grew up when he was a kid. It's like it's the same thing, but now he's just like, but now I'm making it fantastical, because they always make it fantastical, but this is stuff that happens every day, but no one cares when it's not fantastical. Which is like, oh, that's interesting. I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And definitely I think has the most like heartfelt song, because of how grounded it is, despite, its use of sci-fi sound effects and all sorts of voice recordings and things.
In a planetary episode.
And then we get to the battle song here. And this is kind of like an interesting point, because this is when he goes up against like a someone who is similar to him, like the corporate overlord's like, all right, well, fuck, all right, we can't beat him, so we got to use his abilities against him. And so we have like an intergalactic like rap battle, and What never really happens, though, like in the song, and it kind of leads to like the rest of the album, which is kind of sad, kind of tragic in a way. The ending's kind of a downer, if I have to say, chat, despite sounding pretty good. And it basically, after he wins the rap battle, because he never really wins the rap battle, he eventually, and he destroys like all of his opponents, he then kind of folds in a way, and then he's just, interested more in living in the glory and like collecting his payment and his winnings and things.
Yeah. That's what it's all, man. One for you, two for me. Three for you, two for me.
And that kind of leads into the next song, which is song number 11, which is Love Story, which I personally think is the weakest song on the entire track, to be honest. And this is like after, you know, he basically gives up everything that he was working to achieve. And this is where he's talking about, like, I'm just going to kick back. I'm just going to smoke weed. I'm going to take a vacation and everything, you know. And he's like, I'm home in Oakland and stuff. And it's definitely the one where it's like, oh, hey, now we're back to reality right now. And he like references how like terrible his home is, and like it's a terrible place, and it's filled with junkies and technology addicted people who are, you know, busy, more busy on like their phones and things like that, or whatever, than actually caring about like, you know, other people, right? And much like, you know, Deltron, who inevitably seemingly fails at the end of the song, which is like, oh damn, that's kind of fucking sad.
Hey, you try to get over, you're gonna go under.
And then we get to the kind of like the final song of the piece, which is Memory Loss. And this one is also very good, and it samples all of the other songs and references all the previous events from the previous 11 songs. And basically it's, you know, Deltron rising again and saying like, you don't succumb to complacency and just don't judge people on their, you know, based on their environment, the environment which they live in. And, you know, people should rise above the system, the corporate system, the bureaucratic system, and do not cave like Deltron Zero did after he achieved so much and he gave up on it because, well, he finally made some progress and he became a hero and he got all this money. So don't abandon your initial principles and continue forward and you know, carry on with it, which is like, that's a good message. I think the song before was kind of sad, but I guess, you know, he wanted to say like, hey, not all heroes. I mean, it's the saying like from The Dark Knight. It's like, you know, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain. And so it's like, that's kind of what happens here. If I have any like major criticisms of the album itself, is like I said, I mentioned a couple times, you know, in between all these songs, you have these like little skits that introduce the songs themselves. And a lot of them are like, you know, attempting to be funny, and they're just kind of like stating the obvious, which is what the lyrics already kind of state in themselves. I mean, I was probably able to glean a lot from the lyrics, you know, after listening to it, you know, basically twice. I'm like, okay, this is what he's trying to say here. And to the point where it's like they almost kind of felt unnecessary at times, and because the songs themselves kind of, I mean, they literally speak for themselves, and so it just felt like they were like, because they're only about like, they're between like 20, 30 seconds each, you know, scattered throughout. So I guess there's like about 12 or so in between all the other ones. But to me, it didn't really even feel necessary. You know, I'm almost felt like it's like, we want to make sure we get to that 60 minutes or something. But it's like, you didn't really need to do that at all. But, you know, I still listen. You know, I still really enjoyed the album quite a bit. As someone who is definitely not experienced in hip hop at all, I think it serves as like a great introduction, a great gateway, and it's the way in which it blends, you know, various genres and subgenres of sci-fi and fantasy and dystopian, you know, worlds together and create something and tell a story at the same time. I think that's pretty compelling. I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, again, like my favorite song is still, you know, the 3030. I think it's just so great with just the background incorporating, you know, the gospel music with the operatic stuff, and then having that beat in there too, and the lyrics. It really makes it kind of stand out. And then all the other songs I think are very good, maybe exception of one which I didn't particularly care for, which was Love Story, where, you know, that didn't have as much of the sci-fi element that I liked so much. That was clearly established through all the songs. But overall, I mean, like out of, you know, 11 out of 12 songs that I enjoyed, that's not too bad, Chad. Not too bad at all, with, you know, certainly like 2 that I'm like, I would love to just listen to this again. I would love to see these like actually in like films. Like they would be perfect. They would be absolutely perfect for like a series like, you know, Cowboy Bebop or something, or any of its equivalents or contemporaries or things that have come after it that are clearly inspired by it. Like I really loved it for that. And so I'm curious, you know, to check out the rest of this album. You know, the rest of what, you know, Del, the Funky Homosapien, and like everyone else who, you know, worked on this album, what they did, you know, Dan the Automator and DJ Kid Koala, you know, because, you know, they definitely seem to be doing something a little bit different within this specific genre of music that is not as mainstream, but but I think that makes it like really interesting. I think that makes it like, because like, oh, cool, you know, you might get the attention of someone who is not really in the rap, because maybe, you know, to a person like someone who's, you know, ignorant when it comes to music like me, it's like, yeah, all rap kind of sounds the same to me, but it's like this one, like, wow, this sounds like definitely different than what I've certainly heard and been exposed to over time, over the years that I've listened to rap. So yeah, I highly recommend, chat, checking out Deltron 3030, Deltron 3030. I think if one, you know, if you are a rap fan, I think it'll be something a little cool, something a little different than what you're used to. If you're not experienced with rap, I think this is a perfect gateway for you, just because, you know, it's incorporating stuff you may be more familiar with. Fantasy aspects and sci-fi aspects, and referencing things you might have grown up with as a kid or seen as an adult. You know, I think it's really a really interesting album, and one that I'm very happy to own. And again, huge thank you to Dat Chicken Wayne. Let me go ahead and show it off right here. Dat Chicken Wayne for purchasing for me, and a huge thank you to everyone for voting on it. You know, I listened to like a little bit of this before when it was gifted to me, but now I finally had the time to listen to all of it, and I found it like really, really fun. I thought it was great. But yeah, Chad, that's my first episode of musical musings. I definitely recommend Deltron and their works. But what about you guys? Based on the little clips that I've shown you, little bits of song that I've played for you guys today, what did you guys think of this particular album today? Does it interest you? Does it not interest you? Let me know. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar: The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.